Gacha Wars are the stupidest thing to ever grace the gacha community. Kind of. I'm saying kind of because I feel like there are two sides to the Gacha Wars. There is people who compare the games, see whichever one is better, and they play the game that they think is better. And I also try to let other people know whichever one is better. And there is the other side of the Gacha Wars who are just people, and I'm trying my hardest not to call them lobotomites, but people who are willing to literally go to war over whatever pixel they like more. So let's talk about it. Now, for a short disclaimer just so that we can start the right way, if you came to this video thinking I'm gonna be trash talking any game, that is not the point, so I'm sorry to disappoint you, but that's not gonna be happening in this video. Also, this is gonna be a bit different than what I normally do. There's not gonna be anything hyper edited here. I'm just gonna rant, so I'm gonna put this out in advance. I'm sorry if I'm gonna yap too much, and also I'd really appreciate if you could subscribe. That means a lot to me. Also, a quick thanks to the sponsor of this video. Make sure to check out Lootbar.gg, a website that offers top-ups for both Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail at much better price, and the sponsor of this video. With Lootbar, you can get prices up to 23% cheaper and an 8% off coupon code for new users to get started in the best way possible. Take this package for example. Why would you not want to get more value out of your money? And I know this is all great, but what's even better is the fact that Lootbar is completely safe, boasting both great reviews and having cooperated with multiple well-known creators such as Raiden Shotgun, NoCap, Dukaja, and many more. So here's how easy and fast it is to top up, only requiring your user ID and server region. After all, Lootbar has the exact same routing as the in-game store, so if for example you want to top up 6400 crystals, you'll get the top up bonus you're familiar with, which is twice the crystals, only at a much better price and with the delivery being done within half an hour. But it gets even better, since with Lootbar you can purchase 4 6400 Genesis crystal packs for only $295 with only one convenient payment operation, saving you nearly $100 in the process. So don't walk, run to the website and get yourself the best deals possible and exclusive discounts by using the links in the description and pinned comment. Now, the reason I'm talking about this is because I recently made a video about Wuthering waves and whether or not it's worth coming back to or starting in 2025, and to be quite frank, that video was well received. A lot of people seem to like it. Only problem was that I kind of committed a cardinal sin. You see, before I made that video, I also covered Genshin in the same exact format, and covering Genshin in the same exact format meant that whether I liked it or not, at times I compared the two games, which again was a cardinal sin, as it was apparent from some of the comments I got. You see, a lot of people seem to not like the idea of comparing games, and while most of the people in my comments were civil about it, it kind of reminded me that there is this side to the Gacha Wars where people are not really civil about it and they fight all the time over which pixel is better. And so in this video I'm gonna be covering why I think fighting over games is stupid as shit and why I think comparing is good. Now I'm gonna address the first point, which is people going to war and committing to literally 1v1s in comment sections, Reddit posts, whatever, you name it, over which pixel is better, because I feel like that's the stupidest out of the two things I want to talk about today. And so if you are one of the people who do that, take a step back, sit down, relax. I'm gonna paint you a picture as to why that is dumb as fuck. So I know in your perspective you might seem like you are just a player playing a game, but let's play a bit of a game, right? Let's change the perspective a bit. Imagine that you are not a player anymore and you are what the person making the game and the company making the game see you as. Well, suddenly you are not a player anymore but a customer. That's what you are in their eyes. You are a customer who is supposed to spend money inside their game. Now, because we are talking about a live action game, and not only live action, but gacha at that, and the reason I'm mentioning it being a gacha is because gachas are not really designed like products that you only buy once, like normal games are. Gachas are designed like stores. They are designed to keep you logged in and playing for as long as possible, because the longer you spend inside their game, the more likely you are to spend money, which is why everything is time gated, from how many artifacts you can farm per day, how many boss runs you can do per day or per week depending on the boss. Everything is time gated. So now the question is, if you were to talk about a store that makes you waste time and has zero respect for your time due to its layout or whatever, would you argue with people about your store being better? Because I think that's like the stupidest thing you could possibly do. Now, with the analogies out of the way and hopefully with a fresh perspective, we can kind of start seeing why arguing is dumb. But here's the thing, there is one more side to the Gacha Wars, if it can even be called one side of the Gacha Wars, which is comparing, which is what I did. And people got upset for that, and here I am to tell you that comparing games is actually good as opposed to fighting over which game is better. I think we should always be comparing games, because when you compare stuff, you create kind of like a competitive environment. And on the gacha scene, in the gacha market, you want the games to be as competitive as possible with each other. For example, I don't think it's incorrect to say that Wuthering Waves has a better gacha system than Genshin Impact, because in Wuthering Waves you hit pity at 80 pulls instead of 90, so it requires less resources to get to that point. Also, you have no 50-50 on the weapon banner, so getting upset for somebody comparing games like this is kind of fucking dumb, because everybody should know that there is better out there and they should strive to get better. I would love if I could see Genshin changing their system and being a bit more lenient and allowing you to get more characters by just lowering the requirements they have. I think that would be absolutely fantastic, but this is never gonna happen if people don't compare games and they don't talk about games that actually have better practices, or at least as far as better practices can go in the gacha industry, because we are talking about games that have inherently predatory systems. These games want to take both your cock and balls, but you know, at least one of them leaves your cock out of the equation, so at least you are left with something at the end of the day. But anyway, I digress. The point still stands. You cannot have competitiveness if you do not really compare things, and I think comparing will always be good, even if it's been done a million times already. And so with everything out of the way, I think it's only fair that I finish what I initially started, which is the comparison between the two games. And I know this might create a nuclear meltdown and war in my comments, depending on how many people see the video, obviously, but I really am curious to see if people will engage in civil discussions over this, or if everybody is just gonna go straight to war about which game is better. And obviously, everything I'm about to say is nothing but my own opinion, and I can be very wrong. I'm only human at the end of the day, and I would really love to know what your opinion of the game is. And if you think I'm wrong about something, please do let me know in the comments below. I'm really open to feedback. Now, I'm gonna be honest, I don't want to waste too much of your time, so I'm gonna break this comparison down into a couple of categories. I'm gonna go from monetization to gameplay to story and world building, and that's pretty much it. I'm not gonna go any further than that. I'm just gonna keep it simple. So for monetization, I think it's safe to say that both games are the exact same. Wuthering Waves is basically a carbon copy of Genshin when it comes to monetization. They are literally the same. It's as if the Genshin monetization system underwent mitosis. So this one's gonna be like an easy skip. There's literally nothing to say there. Now, I'm not gonna talk about the gacha system and pity when it comes to monetization, because that's something I already covered a bit earlier, so there's no point in doing that. Now, when it comes to gameplay, I think there's two aspects that I'm gonna be covering here, and those two aspects are gonna be combat and exploration. And when it comes to combat, there isn't much to say. Combat is, after all, the single most subjective thing you could probably take between these two games and talk about, because this is where the games are like inherently different. One of them is a lot more skill based than another, and I'm talking about Wuthering Waves. You have to pay attention to your dodges, you have to pay attention to your counters, and elemental reactions don't really mean much at all. Whereas Genshin is a bit more laid back, relaxed. You have to do elemental reactions, and you can usually get away with a lot of stuff. And so this comes down to preference, which is why everything is so subjective when it comes to combat. I personally prefer the combat system of Wuthering Waves, but that's just because I'm a sweaty ass in every single game I play. Obviously, if you prefer Genshin Impact, then that's totally fine. That combat system is also fun to play with, so there's nothing wrong with that. And for exploration, I think it's quite simple. In my opinion, Wuthering Waves is doing a much better job. You can run up pulls, you can fly in the new region, you can basically do like movement tech and shit, and exploration quality of life is not paywalled behind 5-star characters. So because of this, I think Wuthering Waves offers a much better experience and takes the W here. And that's without even mentioning quality of life stuff like putting chests in small clusters to make them easier to collect, and also how easy it is to keep track of everything you're collecting. But now here's a big one, and I'm talking about story. I love me a good story, and when it comes to story, between these two games, Genshin does a much better job with its story. Now, obviously, this comes with a caveat that it's been going on for nearly half a decade, while Wuthering Waves is still very young. Basically, it's not even had its first anniversary, but so far Genshin does a much better job with its story. I do prefer the MC portrayal of Wuthering Waves. I wish the Traveler in Genshin Impact had a bit more power, and I also know that not everybody loved the Natlan storyline, but when it comes to like the whole picture, the whole story of Teyvat and everything around it, it just goes so deep. I love every single detail of it. And so for me, when comparing the two games, if we're talking story, I think Genshin does a much better job. For world building, if I were to rank all the regions between these two games, I think the latest region in Wuthering Waves would easily take the top spot. However, this is kind of the only region I like a lot in Wuthering Waves, as opposed to Genshin, where sure, they didn't do like the best job with Natlan, but all the other regions were fairly well done, and I enjoyed all of them a lot. So for me at least, I feel like it's fair to give this one to Genshin. So is one game better than another? Is Wuthering Waves better than Genshin Impact? Well, yes and no. I can say yes because for me at least it's a better game, but I cannot say that it's a better game for everybody. Obviously, there are things which are objectively true, such as the pity system being better in Wuthering Waves and the developers caring more about players in this game, at least for now. But when it comes to gameplay, people are gonna like different things, and so I cannot say for somebody else whether or not Wuthering Waves is better than Genshin. I know for a fact a couple of people who prefer the movement in Genshin as opposed to the one in Wuthering Waves, and so saying one game is definitely better than another would be kind of dumb in this regard, at least as far as gameplay goes. But yeah, I'm curious what you guys guys think. I want to see if anybody's gonna be able to engage in civil discussion about which game is better in the comments down below. But that's pretty much it for this video. Thank you so much for sticking up until the very end in my ADHD fueled yap session. I'm not sure if I'm gonna be doing videos like this in the future. Maybe not. We'll see. If you enjoyed it, make sure to subscribe to the channel, make sure to like the video, and also you can always join the Discord server if you want to engage in civil discussion about different things. We got a lot of people there who talk about all kinds of stuff. So yeah, see ya.